are these people?
This story is brought to me by Indy, actually.
Hmm.
And I think it's very fitting in terms of we just voted over the last month and change, and more so yesterday, given that it was election day. So we
Which,
often hear stories regarding. Go ahead.
well, I was going to say, speaking of those stories about broken voter machines, shout out Convo Couch.
hmm
You know, Fiorella, Pasta, Johnny Mayorka, they did extensive work on this the last couple of elections. So good on them. Go check out their stuff, you know.
Right.
But anyway,
But this article that Indy showed me was very interesting, given that this was written in August, and case in point, so I kind of saw this online yesterday, where not this, no, actually it is this clip that I kind of saw floating around. So I don't think this is the person who originally posted, but at Infantry Bucky tweeted out, Kentucky voting machines not letting Trump be selected, but then auto selects Kamala. My father-in-law is over voting machines in Kentucky. I'm going to try and find out if there are a lot of issues happening. God, please let this hashtag election be fair. So if you play this short, so you see the guy trying to push Donald Trump, but then it selects Kamala.
yep.
So that I saw
That's also like
floated
bad
around.
touch screens always have a problem with like
Bad touch screens. Right.
yeah.
Right.
Like they don't calibrate them properly, you know?
Right. This is another story at UltraFrog17. Also posted this. Funny enough, this was in Pennsylvania, given Pennsylvania is a swing state. So I believe this is from a news clip from within the county. So if you want to play this video, it's very short.
Outside of the
Nope.
Pittsburgh region, a software malfunction in the Johnstown area is now preventing some voters from scanning their ballots electronically in precincts. So they're now filling out paper ballots in parts of Cambria County. A court has just granted the Board of Elections their request to extend the time to vote until 10 p.m. within Cambria County. Election officials say despite this issue, citizens should still come out to vote. The Office of Cambria County Commissioner sent Pittsburgh's Action News for a statement that reads in part, quote, there is a process in place for issues of this nature. All completed ballots will be accepted, secured, and counted by the Board of Elections. They also thank the community for their patience and pledge that all votes will be counted. And as so many...
Nope.
But this is common. Like we hear all the time whenever we are in voting season that there are issues with machines, and then the idea of like having paper ballots and all that just to make sure that there's voting integrity, is in place and all of that. So as I said, Indy brought me this article from Politico. We normally don't do mainstream media here, but it is interesting. And I forgot who wrote this article, so I apologize. But any articles that most of the time that we list will be in the description below if you want to read it for yourself. But title is The Nation's Best Hackers Found Vulnerabilities in Voting Machines, but no time to fix them. Now, keep in mind, this article was written back in August of this year.
Yeah.
A hack that would disrupt the election is unlikely, but experts are worried that any vulnerabilities could provide fodder for those wishing to question the results. Case in point, what Trump was trying to do at the last election. Come on. There we go. While there have been no foreign cyber attacks taking wide swaths of voting machines offline on election day, or evidence of hacks that affect results, the risk is always there. If you don't think this kind of place is running 24/7 in China, Russia, you're kidding yourselves. Hertz said, gesturing around the room of voting equipment. We are here for only 2.5 days and we find stuff. It would be stupid to assume that the adversaries don't have absolute access to everything. Any issues found in these machines, most of which are jurisdiction around the US, would need to go through a complex process to be fixed, and that takes much longer than the 2 months until the November general election. Voting village organizers are frustrated that, despite years of security findings, voting machine vendors aren't moving more quickly to make fixes. There's so much basic stuff that should be happening and it's not happening. So yes, I'm worried about things not being fixed, but they haven't been fixed for a long time, and I'm also angry about it, Percy said during a break in the day. While there is a robust system in place for certifying voting systems, it is a long one. Even if you find a vulnerability next week in a piece of modern equipment that's deployed in the field, there's a challenge in getting the patch and getting the fix out to the state and local election officials and onto the equipment before the November election, said Algerie, executive director of the Information Technology Information Sharing and Analysis Center. The group serves as a way to companies in the IT space to share threat information.
Yeah.
Algier, who also runs the organization Elections Industry Special Interest Group, said the process involves getting a sign-off from the machine manufacturer, then getting the system recertified by relevant authorities, then going in and updating each device. This complex series of steps is complicated even more by most election machines being behind lockdown weeks in advance of the elections. It is not a 90-day fix. It is not a Microsoft every Tuesday issue your patch and everything works fine, Algier said. It's a pretty complicated process. There are some proposals to speed up the process so election officials aren't scrambling to update voting machines every time DFCon happens in an election year. For example, some argue that depending too much on one annual event at a private conference is not the best approach. One option to speed up the process: bring voting machine vendors together with hackers in a more formalized setting. The elections industry SIG hosted an event last year in Washington that did just that and helped to build bridges between a typically suspicious industry and security researchers.
Yes.
We want to build a program where we can work in partnership with the security researchers under the principles of coordinated vulnerable disclosure, Algier said. Until then, those who packed up the voting village this weekend, with lines spilling out in the hallway, the event serves a higher purpose. We may not be able to fix everything about our election system in the next 90 days, but we can start by getting some of our facts straight and by understanding how election systems work, Terranova said. So, short article. But any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, they've been doing like competitions on these voting machines for quite a while now, as far as being able to hack into them, and it usually takes like young people very short amount of time to compromise them, you know.
Right.
I've never felt like what's the difference? It's like voter fraud, right? Versus election fraud. I feel like election fraud's much more common, you know, and
Right.
affects things a lot more. But you know, that to me is more the important thing with these machines. Look into who owns these machines. Who, I mean, I know classically, I think it was, you know, Anonymous sat through one of the tunnels that was being used for one of those and like noticed a ton of, you know, suspicious activity through there.
Right.
With packets being exchanged and stuff.
I remember back in the 2020 primary in the Iowa caucus, like Buttigieg got caught with, like, I forgot the exact details, but like he was connected to some tampering with the voting machines, you know, so which which looked like he was the winner when he wasn't. Like it was actually, I would argue, probably Bernie at. So,
Yeah.
you know, so the idea, like, but as we said, this has been an issue that is notoriously common but yet there are no real fixes towards making voting machines a lot more viable and secure so that they don't have these problems. But again, it makes sense given that they're not used that frequently. So they're just kind of sitting in storage, collecting dust or whatever, I'm sure. But
Yeah.
it's the idea of like, if you want to give the illusion that we have a democracy, especially if you're trying to have ideally every person in the country vote, you need to make sure that the technology is there for them to, to make that viable for, because if it breaks down or, or it's being tampered with, then you are going to have people who question the integrity of elections. And that's not to say even with this election that it still might not happen, but I don't think it's likely given that Trump, right now is president-elect. But who's to say, especially given in the last segment, and actually now that I'm thinking about it, like that could be also another thing that we need to be that technology. Even if you just may not even have to use a ballot or even a computer, they can just maybe use your face, use biometrics to determine how to vote. So like even with that just seems very sketch to
Yep.
me, or I just feel like it could be a way to kind of introduce a lot of these technologies in our voting system as well.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. But yeah, shout out Convo Couch. Go check out their stuff on voting machines. Anything else you wanted to add?
That again, we're gonna keep it short because I think you have 2 extra stories and then we might have one more tonight. So, but such stories like this are while we are demonetized. So if you want to support us, please, you can use your QR code on this and scan the code on the screen in order to give money to Ko-fi, or you can go to the link that you see at the bottom of the screen, type it in, and you can go there to donate. You can donate as little as $1 or how much you can in order to support us here on the channel as well as INN. And please, please, please feel free to give us a like and help us share our content in order to reach more people. YouTube hates us, so and why didn't that pop up?
There it goes.
There it goes. Make sure you leave a comment so we do read them, and often than not, we would love to have more people kind of share, their ideas and thoughts so that we're able to possibly pull stories that you recommend that we can look into. Help us get to free case so we're able to grow and reach more people in terms of sharing our content. And thanks for watching.